At different levels of the political sphere, aspirants of the two leading parties have been withdrawing and defecting in large numbers. Now, information reaching Arise News within the political circles has it that some of the leading presidential aspirants in the APC and PDP may end up in the Social Democratic Party, SDP, as their final destination. How is the SDP prepared for these defectors? Can the SDP structure cope with these bigwigs if they eventually defect into its fold? We are now speaking with the national chairman of the party, Shehu Gabam, who now joins us directly in the studio. So good to have you.
A great pleasure, Shaga.
Well, we hear the SDP is the newest bride in town. I mean, tell us a little bit about this decision of many of these persons who are refusing to participate in the governorship primaries of the PDP or APC or the senatorial primaries or the House of Rep primaries or state houses of assembly primaries, and planning to come to you or some other political parties.
Well, first and foremost, I want to thank you for inviting me. Secondly, to make it very clear that we laid this foundation a long time ago. Any political operative ought to have known that this crisis has been predicted a long time ago. And because of lack of internal democracy in PDP and APC, obviously a smart party would prepare to win election.
You have been in the PDP yourself.
That's what I'm saying.
I remember, based on your experience nationally and all of that.
What we experienced in the PDP, the agony and the kind of treachery we went through made us leave the party. And of course, we went into SDP to make it a national platform. It wasn't an easy process. We went through a lot of challenges, but eventually people have come to terms and reality that SDP is a platform to beat. And we are not focusing on generating revenue. We are focusing on winning election. And that is why in most of the state of the federation, we fielded only one candidate to one position. We did not duplicate sale of forms because we are trying to get away from complications of litigations and so on and so forth. Wow. Because the dynamics have changed and you have to work with the reality that is on ground.
So
Nigeria
you're being strategic by selling only one form. That means you're building a consensus around specific
We are
candidates.
building a consensus. Just like yesterday, in Kwara, we had about 5 gubernatorial aspirants. So we worked around them. They had a consensus and somebody have a match. As I'm talking to you, I have just been screened at the party headquarters as the candidate of the party in Kwara States. You know, the Otoge group that produces the news, all of them have fallen into SDP as a whole. The same
is
thing
Lai Mohammed part of it?
Well, Lai is
the Minister of Information, because he's aggrieved.
He's serving in the government, so it's not part of us.
Okay.
But that large group that determined the fate of, you know, the emergence of this government, they are all in the SDP, all of them.
But won't you be accused of imposition because you're not doing primary election?
No. We have done primary elections. There was no consensus. The consensus was only between the contestants, but our primary elections, as we sent to INEC, is indirect primaries in all the state of the federation. Okay. We have done the state assembly primaries on the 24th of this month. Today they have done the screening for the House of Reps. The primary will take place tomorrow. The Senate will be, primaries will be on the 27th. On the 28th will be the primary for the senators. On the 29th, 30th will be the primary for the governorship nationwide. So we are adopting indirect primaries.
When is your presidential primary?
Our presidential primaries and convention on the 2nd of June.
Okay. Now, you've attracted some new political leaders, some bigwigs, even those within the corporate environment like Atedo Peterside. A lot of us were actually surprised that he chose the SDP as his new political party. And you're trying to position yourself as a party for young people. I want to ask if indeed we are having the PDP presidential primary this weekend and that of the APC too coming up this weekend, if some of the defectors move to the SDP, wouldn't there be a problem with INEC based on the Electoral Act provision that you can't participate in 2 primaries? And then secondly, you are supposed to produce a register of party members to INEC. If these people are not yet in the SDP, how do you intend to manage that? Because you're supposed to have them as your members first, then before you forward that membership register to INEC.
Well, we are quite conversant with the Electoral Act. What happened was that when this Electoral Act was amended, or was approved and signed by the President, we gave it to our legal team to study and understand the difficult environment that we need to navigate through, which you have mentioned. We have deposited our registers. The deposition of registers is a continuous exercise, you know. And then, of course, the electoral act is clear. You cannot participate in 2 primaries. So obviously, anybody who have not purchased the form, who have not submitted the form, is not likely to participate in the primaries. The possibility or the window, which I don't see the possibility if somebody have emerged as a presidential candidate to step down for somebody. I'm not saying it's not possible, but it depends on high-level conversations and discussions that perhaps might convince whosoever emerge to step down for somebody. Otherwise, the windows are almost closing.
Okay, so let's get you very clearly. So you can still accommodate new members in the SDP, and then you find a way of sending the register to INEC
Naturally,
later.
we can accommodate more members. We can continue to accommodate.
Okay.
We are accommodating up to now that I'm talking to you.
Oh, interesting indeed. Yes. But for those who maybe are presidential aspirants in the APC or PDP, for them to participate in the SDP primaries, they would have to resign or refuse to participate in the PDP and APC presidential primaries before they are qualified for yours.
They have to, you know, not to participate in any of the party that they belong to primaries. And of course resign from that and then be members of the party. Then they can come through substitution. The special substitution is quite good, and it accommodates all the new electoral act provisions. You know, being so a member for
you have just set the ball rolling, because it means now that on the eve of the PDP presidential election or presidential primaries or the APC presidential primaries, those who may want to come to your party may have to rethink whether to go into the primary election and lose, or have an opportunity of defecting to your party or any other party.
The electoral act is very complicated.
Yeah, I mean, and they have to study very
careful.
Well. Yes, I mean,
avoid legal issues.
These things were there so as to prevent all of this. Now, very quickly, as we try to go there to round off this program, tell us, the Social Democratic Party, what are you planning for Nigerians ahead of the general election that will make you different from the APC, PDP, and other political parties?
Now, there's nothing new that anybody can reinvent. Any presidential aspirant that do not understand this, that there's massive challenges of insecurity, which is in Article 1 of the Constitution, the protection of life and property of Nigeria, then he shouldn't think of vying for president of Nigeria. And any president who don't understand that our infrastructure has decayed to an extent that is creating massive insecurity nationwide, then he doesn't need to contest. And anybody who don't understand that the level of unemployment have gone extremely very high, he doesn't need to contest. And the poverty level have eaten so bad, the purchasing power of Nigeria are extremely very low. Now, if you don't have the economic team, economic expert that can advise you how to rejiggle the economy, and the devaluation of our currency that have weakened our economic base, then he doesn't need to contest.
Okay.
These are factors that are visible, that are touchable, that you don't need a researcher to tell you these are the problems.
Yeah,
because the problems are
very interesting. I'm being told that we don't have enough time. But before we go, have you approached Peter Obi to, out of his grievances with the PDP, come into your party? And also, is it true that Bola Tinubu wants the SDP presidential ticket?
I don't want to speculate. But conversations are ongoing.
Including with Tinubu?
I don't want to speculate.
How about Peter Obi?
I don't want to speculate. But there are a lot of conversations that are ongoing.
Okay, but is
I owe it a duty to keep it as private as it is right now.
Okay.
And if you realize of recent, SDP was off publicity a lot, because
and I was surprised myself.
We need to protect those that are coming in. There are a lot of technical operations. It takes a daft politician to think that everything is for publicity. There are periods of publicity, there are periods of technical operation. We are in a technical operation right now.
But is the SDP willing to go into alliance with other political parties for what's called the third force?
No. We are not going into any alliance. There's no discussion of alliance with the SDP. We are too strong to go into any alliance. I mean to go into any merger. But we are willing to absorb parties that want to come into SDP. But as it is now, SDP cannot be absorbed by any party. We are too strong to be absorbed by any party. But alliance are possible. Those who want to have strategic alliance, depending on the type of alliance, the alliance must be properly defined to suit the circumstances that we are in. The MOUs and so on and so forth.
Okay.
But not SDP to move into any party.
Just very quickly, in 30 seconds, do you foresee the next president of Nigeria coming out of the SDP?
Absolutely. I advise APC and PDP to be very watchful, to be very careful, no longer to think SDP is a party that they think of before.
So from number 4, you're prepared to be number 1 now.
It's a major force that they should look forward to.
All right, Alhaji Shehu Gabam is the national chairman of the Social Democratic Party, and we must thank you and congratulate you on your new position, because you used to be the former national secretary before your emergence. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Arise interview. Well, that's how it's been on this edition of the Arise interview. Do join us again tomorrow from me and the entire team here in Abuja. Goodbye and thank you for watching. I'm Somna Sambo.